So, hello and welcome to this not really being an official Lighting Academy video. I also would argue the Lighting Academy is not necessarily back, so I'm just getting this out here so there is no kind of like, oh yeah, he's like fully back. I'm mainly doing this right now because I fuck things up on Twitter. So I'm only here because I said something without thinking about it, and you all were awesome. No, so like for those of you who don't know, there was this lighting contest, Unreal Lighting contest, which was called Better Light Than Never Lighting Challenge. And decided to just like quickly throw something together to hand it in because I think lighting challenges can be quite fun. Usually there are not many, and there's new Unreal version, new cool stuff. So I was like, hey, let's spend like 2 days and throw something together. Sorry if you hear my cat dying. He's not dying. He's just very vocal, and he thinks, why am I not spending time with him, but instead with my computer? So if you hear that, that's just him. Anyways, so there was this lighting challenge. I threw this thing together. I really did not have much time because I was very busy. So this is what we have, and I posted on Twitter about it. And in the middle of the night, I thought I was being like funky, and I said like, I don't know, like if this gets like 150 likes or something like that, I'm gonna do a quick breakdown. So everybody delivered, and here we are. So this is gonna be a little breakdown of how I threw the scene together. So the first thing that I need to tell you guys is like, this is all done super fucking dirty. Like, like I haven't modeled stuff in ages. So let's just go out here and let's just break the illusion of what this is. So this is just the default template floor. Yeah, so you can see this is all very quick and dirty. I just like modeled this like quick barn thingy in like, I don't know, 30 minutes in Blender. You may say like, wow, 30 minutes, like, I could model twice a barn twice as good. But you also have to see, like, I usually don't model anymore. So even though I know how to use the tools, it's just sometimes like, how do I break my fingers on the keyboard again to like execute this thing? So like, this was just like getting the job done. Also, this was based on a painting, and sadly, I forgot the name of the painter again, but it's on my Twitter. I actually posted it, and the guy actually replied when I initially posted the artwork just of the house. So you can see this is all like done super dirty. There's like some really messed up decals that are just doing bad shit all over the place. So again, for me, it was really mainly about getting this shot initially. So, just like scattering like a bunch of mega scans and like just quickly painting some vegetation. And then for the challenge, I kind of wanted to like give this sort of like a really like eerie feeling, because like I think like even when you take this camera position here, it kind of like, if we do like this at least, it 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 looks a bit creepy, I think. So I just really wanted to lean into the creepiness with this thing. But before we do that, the whole setup of all of this is just actually really, really simple. I do have my sky sphere here. Use a actually one of the free textures from hdrmaps.com. So it's not like super, or actually it is quite high res. So it's not like one of a low res freebie or something, but it's like one of the free ones that you can get from there. It already has the bottom masked out, so I didn't really like care too much about any of that. And I mainly chose it because I needed the dark part here. Like this stuff is the good stuff. And as you can see, I rotated it this way. So because in the reference image, it was transitioning from like a bit like nicer cloudy, or like not nicer, but brighter to darker. So I kind of mainly needed this little gradient kind of thing here. So that was matching up very well. I threw in some height fog, which is a tiny little bit tweaked here. Well, not too much, to be honest. I added the volumetrics as well. It's not like it's doing like a bit here because of the sun scattering that I actually bumped. So this would be the original without the volumetric fog, and this is what the volumetric fog does. Also, like since the reference was like a painting, you know, things can always be like different in the way of like how you perceive, like what is painted is not necessarily how it would look in real life, but it's more like how the artist that did it perceived how he wanted to do it. So when you work with like painting stuff as a reference, there is usually a bit more like fakeria involved than you would normally do. So you can see here that these shadows were rather, well, let's call them dead or dark, lifeless. So I just like warmed them up a little bit, because the thing is, like in the painting, also the side here was rather dark but still readable. So I couldn't really use the skylight to brighten it, because then it would have affected this one as well. So I just made the choice to place a fake light, which I usually don't do much, but like, you know, there's always a good use for something at some point. So it's just like this super simple setup. Also, if we look at the post-processing and the exposure, we're like, you know, just like a classic cloudy day exposure. So we're like at EV8 here. My sun is at 4000 lux, because this is basically like, this is like a late afternoon and cloudy, like, because like we don't actually care about this mood over here, right? We care about what we got over here and how this is supposed to feel. So the sunlight pops pretty well like this, and that is pretty much how this first thing was done. But now when I thought about like how can I like give this some twist and also like be considerate about the theme of the challenge, which said better light than never, I interpreted this in the way of like, you know, even though that this is kind of like a little bit eerie, slightly creepy, we're gonna have a twisted version of that is gonna be even worse. So the light is better, like, than the one that has less light. That is a very stupid way of interpreting the theme. But I also think that the sort of like the warm light that we'll have in the flip version also plays into the theme, where it's like leading us towards it, almost like grabbing us and soaking us in. So yeah, I was obviously watching the latest season of Stranger Things, and I was like, man, that camera roll is fucking cool. I want that. So I was like, hell yeah, I've never done any sequencer work before, so why not do like this camera roll thing? Because that sounds easy, right? The thing is, it kind of is easy, but it also, like, what turned out for me, the biggest challenge was just really getting the transition to work incredibly well and just feel good. So even though, like, there's probably many people out there that could do like a better job than I did, I feel pretty happy about how it turned out, because it did involve a lot of tweaking and making sure that the transition just like really feels good. I think that was the most important part to me, was that it feels good. And again, absolute noob when it comes to sequencer and camera work. Never done it before, so I'm happy with what I achieved in that sense. So, and this stuff here, this was all super easy to do, just painting some vegetation and yada yada yada. But now the fun stuff is actually this here, which is the flipped version. And you can see I just added like some super cheesy models here, so that when the camera transitions downwards, it kind of feels like it's you know, Earth. You can see that. So the fun thing is I completely worked like this and it was pretty annoying, to be honest. Also, like, I forgot that I need to adjust the normal in the foliage painting tool for where you can paint. So you know, like, I just basically hand placed all this vegetation down here, all that like grass that we see, everything is just meshes hand placed. So really the smartest way to do this, I would say. Yeah, that was a little bit weird. So basically what happens is that once we hit the sequence here, everything goes dark. Great stuff. Why? Alright, good. So so the first thing is that now we're the exposure is tweaked so that actually the, where the hell is it? So like there's a second camera flying up somewhere over here and I can't find it right now. Scene intro cam, there you go. Where are you? So this one here, it basically points at an emissive plane, which is this one here. Oh yeah, and of course, so like the exposure is already keyed throughout all of this. So like it basically starts with like a black exposure, which is somewhere down here. So the exposure is at like minus 10 or something, I think. And it fades in. The camera is like looking at this emissive plane. There's like some exposure flickering. And I also animated the vignette in the post-processing volume, I think, at some point somewhere. And it flips to this shot here, which I obviously need to do this. So it flips it to this, and then you can see that we get to the twist. So, and now while we're in here, over here, if I'll just go out of this again. So right now, you can see the camera does the roll, and while the camera rolls, whoops, it doesn't like to, you can see here, now the sunlight actually rotates and changes color, and the skylight is animated as well. And now we get this. So I kind of like used just this little like transition here to do all these changes, which I think worked really well, to be honest, with like, you know, like I wanted to do like some lightning strikes as well, but I saw that like when light flickers too much, that Lumen actually trails because of the multi-frame nature that Lumen needs to resolve the GI. So doing lightning strikes was not a great idea, and instead what I ended up doing was using exposure flickers. So basically now this just happens, and what we do here is like the directional light, you can see like the intensity changes slightly. So it goes from like 4,000 to 1,000, and the color goes from like this warm color, or basically this white color actually, and to this blue thing, whatever. And kind of like the same thing with the skylight, where I just animated the color of the skylight which was kind of like a little bit tinted already, but like, you know, not super much. What is that color actually? I don't know. So yeah, it was quite warm. And you know, then it's just like zoop, and you can see it goes to this like super crazy blue, and also the intensity was bumped up quite a lot. So at first in the day version was 2, and then in the night version it's 5. And the thing is, like, what I could not really do was, I guess a lot of people know that I really like the physical values, right? So like, if we go by that philosophy, the night lighting would have been way darker than the day lighting. So I would have needed to animate the exposure down as well, and that would have created a lot more change in this transition when you see the actual Earth. Like, it would have just like, you could see, it would have been weird to animate. Let's put it that way. So what I decided was just like, yeah, I'll completely break the physicality. I keep my exposure at EV8, and I'll just like bump all these things and make them work. I also have this very beautiful fake light here hitting some of the trees, just because I wanted to get some more. Where's the guy? So like, if we just look through this again, it's we can I can show how it looks when I turn it off. But like, to me, it's kind of like, it's just like added a bit of like, you know, this like cinematic look to it, you know. It's like, I think this looks pretty bland, and this one just gives it so much more dimension. And then like here in the back, we do have like these flickers here. And these are, again, these are just exposure flickers, and the same goes down with here. When we go darker, I wanted it to like, basically, this light in here is so bright that even when almost everything is black, we can still see the light. And that is, again, that for me was an idea that I wanted to do because of the better light than never thingy. I just wanted to have the light, again, the driving factor here, and be it still visible even though the scene was so dark. And then in the end we get like a huge exposure flash, which there it is, there, boom. So it just like steps it up again. And this is done via the exposure compensation setting. So it basically just goes to +1. But it feels so incredibly bright because everything else is like more muted. And yeah, that is most of it. I mean, like, again, also, this is a fun thing. Like, since the light was leaking a lot here with the virtual shadow map stuff, so I like put these like planes in here so the shadows don't leak, because like this geometry is actually quite thin, so you can even see here there's like some GI leaking. And I got like some really bad leaking from the shadows not doing the proper work. So like, I just put these blocker planes in there that no one hopefully ever sees. And people have been asking me about this fog stuff here. So here comes a really bad way of describing, like, or basically, I took the cheapest fucking route that I could get, and I do not yet actually know Niagara. And I was like, I don't really have time to fiddle around with Niagara right now, but I do know how to make these things in Cascade. So now you guys think like, how the hell did you get Cascade to work in UE5? I thought it was not supported anymore. But the thing is, if you actually have a project from Unreal 4 using Cascade and you convert it to Unreal 5, you still get the Cascade Particles. But this would have been a really cheap thing to do too, but no, I was not that cheap to do that. But what I actually found out is that when you... Where is this? Yes. So when you create a blueprint class, you can actually add the legacy particle system component, which then lets you create a cascade effect like this. So even though it's not really like you can't create cascade particle effects from the content browser at all, but you can cheese it this way. So of course I did. And so I created this particle cloud thingy that just basically spawns these particles here. And they blow a little bit in the wind, and they have this... No, that's the wrong material. This one. They have this really simple material, which is basically just this. So it is sphere mask for the extinction. I added some emissive just for the sake of like, you know, tweaking and all that kind of stuff. And it basically has this volume texture here, which has the absolute work position and that as the scale, and we have the time multiplied here. So we're basically just masking the alpha channel out, otherwise it complains. And then I'll just have them move by minus 0.1 on the x-axis. And that's it. Like, that really is that simple. And that is the fog. So, yeah, I mean, again, this was really just like super quick. But also, like, I think that Lumen really helped with this because it was so straightforward. And I could actually do the camera transition and the switch and all that. So I think that that worked out really, really well. But then again, also just like, you know, you can see this is like super dirty stuff here. Like I was just at some point, I was just really like having like a secondary viewport open, like under window, you know, you could just like open a new viewport. I had my camera shot on there so I could see it like large. And then I was just going in here with like this view basically, kind of like, I think this was kind of like my main view sort of. And then I just like spammed trees here. You know, this guy is floating because like I don't really care because he's just like behind the house making like some extra branches sticking up. This is all just like, you know, made by what feels good for the shot. And it was actually very interesting because most of you know that like the work that I usually do is very based on what you do for a game, what works best, how to build a consistent environment. This time, I didn't care at all. It was really fun. I just threw this together. I just like placed the things the way I wanted them to be. So that was actually a fresh experience for me as well. It was quite a lot of fun. I think I would still even like, if I like, you know, would work more on this, I would still refine some of the camera movement a bit more. I think it's still a bit rough. But overall, this was quite fun. And I think it was also just nice to, you know, set yourself this little goal and then like achieve it, finish the thing. I'd also never used audio in Unreal, which was actually really a lot of fun to like place the audio clips and make them work. Like, you know, how like when in the music there's like this zoom, and that is exactly how I fade into this shot with the same noise. So like stuff like this from like a cinematography point of view, that was actually really a lot of fun. But like I said, a lot of fake shit in here is really done quick and dirty, so not a lot of magic. But still, one thing also, hey, this was actually also quite annoying. So like, as you can maybe see if YouTube compression doesn't kill it, I have like a super soft and large fuzzy film grain on here. And first of all, big shout out to William, I think Fosher is how you say his name. I mean, his tutorials are so good, like all the Unreal Lighting stuff. He has a very different brand from the things that I do. But his work is absolutely fantastic. So shout out to William. And I watched his video about the movie render queue. And this is obviously, this is not on William. This is more on Epic. Because like William showed this really cool approach on how to like render out super crisp high-res shot from the movie render queue. And he was doing this with his like custom anti-aliasing setting. And so the thing is, I did it and it looked so fucking good. But the problem is that this kind of way of doing the anti-aliasing is doing like some temporal shit where it kind of like blends together frames. So the film grain basically ended up being completely gone. And even though I had a super sexy looking video, I think that this whole video that I made, it lives a little bit by this kind of like vintage look and feel as well. So that sadly went completely out when I did that method, which made me very sad. And since we were told that we cannot do any post-production, I couldn't just add the film grain back in like DaVinci or something. So that was a bit unfortunate. But again, not William's fault. His video was amazing, and I love that I learned how to do this. This is more like on the engine side, on the technology. It's a bit sad that we can't do this and have sexy film grain. So yeah, I mean that's it really. This was just like a super quick thing for me. I'm happy that so many people responded and actually liked the work. I mean, you know, quite often you're even though you're like happy and proud that you made something, you're not always kind of like, ooh, this is the next shit. So it always makes me happy when people like the work that I put out. So thanks for that, and thank you for the continued support as always. I don't know if there will be more Lighting Academy. I just feel really uninspired by like you know, I've covered so many topics already, and there's actually some really good competition out there. So shout out to all these people that provide really good content. So I'm most likely just gonna end up making random videos about stuff that I've worked on or like whatever. Like I don't even know, this is not a promise, but like I don't really see that the Lighting Academy in the way that it was before will come back, to be honest. But also, you know, I don't think that is potentially a bad thing. I mean, times change, people change, tools change. It's just like things get different and there can be a different format for doing things. Who knows? Generally speaking, though, I do enjoy the community. I do like talking about all this kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens. And with that said, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Cheers.